Hello. Oh, today is a treat because CL just yesterday released her new single, Spicy. It is actually a pre-release, so we get more. And that is so exciting. I loved CL since like high school, 2009 when 2NE1 debuted. They're so wonderful. I love Sonia Shide too, but you know, you gotta love both sides of the spectrum. And the hype is definitely already immaculate. What could I possibly add to the reaction scene? Well, as we do on Adventure With Me, we're gonna take a deep dive into the lyrics and into the artistic expressions in the video and see if we can get some deeper meanings. So if you didn't know, CL is the queen of rap, and her opposite would probably be described as Jessie, with Jessie having more of a tighter sound and CL having more of a free form, more relaxed sound. Her other singles were Fire, Lifted, Hello Bitches, all immaculate. The producer of this song is Bauer, who produced the Harlem Shake, and Tokodomo, Korean rapper who co-wrote the lyrics. The music video features Lil Cherry and Gold Buddha, who is a brother-sister duo who are really popular right now. They're like hip-hop Akmu, I guess. So before I get into this like reaction style and talk about the imagery and lyrics line by line, I want to preface this by saying that this song not only has really strong Korean nationalistic vibes, also CL uses the term Asians in this video. Now here in the US, you might think Asians, it's like, oh yeah, that's how we group y'all together. In terms of releasing a song in Korea in August, just last week was Korean Independence Day, and there are other examples of songs that have also made releases or re-releases using that term Asians, like we can all rock together. Korea might be like really popular now and leading the way, but we're gonna all rock together. Like she doesn't push anyone else down in order to lift Korea up, if that makes sense, which some other songs have been criticized of doing. East Asian countries in general, they're very ethnically homogenous. There's a lot of colorism, racism, there's history of colonialism, and there's really contentious politics. We'll touch more on that in the reaction part when we go line by line, but having this background is really important going into the music video, where we have this inclusive concept of Asian pride and Korean nationalistic pride. And I think this may be inspired by CL's really long stay in the US making music. So let's get into it. This is gonna be a fun one. If you see how this looks like before I put the music video in view, like my cat's front and center. She's just like, I'm freaking ready to go. Let's watch CL Spicy.
Excuse me, do you have that sauce that is spicy?
This looks expensive, doesn't it? Like, wow. Wow. Her outfit is so cute.
Chemistry, energy,
You're like, why are you pausing it now, you psychopath? Okay, so let's dive into the lyrics here. So we got, excuse me, do you have that sauce that is spicy? Okay, so the feelings that I got when first hearing that, I was like, that's hilarious. You can kind of think of that person who's like, oh, I want to try that spicy Korean sauce. Like they really don't know like anything about the country, but like want to be a part of it. And that's totally fine. But the way he's saying it sounds kind of like creepy and sus, and you're like, sure, I guess like that's not illegal but feels illegal, you know? And so when you see like Korean flavor sauce, that's also hilarious because Korean is not a flavor, when of course they probably mean gochujang, but you like see it with a lot of like sauces and flavors and things like, and it's just that both overseas and in the US things are oversimplified and boiled down to a fault. And when you hear energy, power, chemistry, here CL is almost saying if you're gonna boil down like being Korean and thinking of it as a spicy sauce, well, I'll give you the ingredients: energy, power, chemistry. She's using this oversimplified term like Korean sauce, Asian spice, and she's putting words with strength behind it. And I think that's a really cool thing to do. CL puts a lot of thought into her art. If you like look at making ofs or anything, she puts a lot of thought into everything. So I really wouldn't doubt it, like, if it was intentional. I just really wouldn't. This is John Malkovich, who is CL's #1 fan and mentor. CL looks up to him very much. He is an actor.
So, dude, well, first of all, I'm your #1 fan. So, that you dropped this song. It's fantastic. Very proud of you and very delighted to see you back recording, singing, and dancing.
So much, John. I love you.
Let's continue.
Excuse me? Excuse you.
All right, guys, I know. So here she's basically saying, I don't really know who you are. Excuse me? Excuse you. Yes, she said it a lot better.
Excuse me? Excuse you.
This really packs a punch to my prior point. Etiquette in general, in countries, in Asian cultures as well, first impressions are paramount. If you don't know someone, you try your best, like, to make yourself look good, and there are things that are expected of you to do in order for you to look good for the other party, to make people impressed not only by you, but of your family and where you come from. And here CL is saying, like, I literally don't care what you think. Like, who are you? Oh, I'm supposed to impress you? Like, I don't know you, and I live for it, and I love it. And also, if you saw the hair colors, they're symbolic of, like, Korean flag color. Thinking about its, like, the time it was released, with Korean Independence Day being just last month, I would think that this is intentional. So if you see the beautiful colors here of the hair, beautiful. All right, let's continue. Oh, the dancing. It's so cool. I'll do that and I'll just look like a chicken. This is a kind of, I get Missy Elliot vibes or Missy Elliot inspiration here. So here at the hook, she's saying she got the sauce and it's spicy. You rockin' or looking at the most fly Asians. So with this little phrase, with this little hook, it's really inclusive. With her time in the US, she's a worldwide figure. There's no doubt that she has an understanding of what it's like to, like, be Asian in the United States. And of course, with her experience in entertainment industry, I'm sure that she had people come at her with a lot of preconceived notions about what Asian women are supposed to be like or look like. And at the time where, you know, she was making her mark, Korean music wasn't at its peak. She lived through that time of, like, Korea making that rise into popularity. Some people who aren't even from Asia can't differentiate between, like, East Asia and Southeast Asian countries and know that there is, like, some contention there between the countries themselves. So instead of CL using her platform to be overall, like, divisive, she toes a beautiful line between Korean nationalistic pride and imagery and saying, as Korea rises, all Asians do. As Korean culture and art becomes more popular, we all rise. You know, we all got the spice. Rock with us, all of us. And that's something that you don't hear in some other music. So as I said, the song was released in August, an important month for Korea. And to really hone the point in with how popular South Korean culture is, Nike released their Seoul Dunk shoes as, like, in celebration of Korean Independence Day. And this song, like, isn't the only one to be released with some nationalistic imagery this month. So Jay Park also released a song for Korean Independence Day. This song isn't, but his was. And so I'm going to use it as a compare and contrast here. This music video reached a lot of backlash. People believed that it was cultural appropriation of Black and Latino hip-hop culture. For example, people were wearing afros, dreads, sagging pants, literally throwing up gang signs, and one of the artists said that they will pull out a Glock, which is pretty hilarious because, like, if you get one in Korea, like, I don't know. Like, you're not gonna do that. So Jay took that criticism of cultural appropriation and had a really big response in his YouTube comments, and he even put the video on private for a while. So with its release on Korean Liberation Day, he made it very, very clear that this was in celebration of Korean Liberation Day. It's just very, very, like, interesting language used here in the beginning of the music video. There are a lot of mixed reviews on this video. I asked my friends who were still back in Korea and asked, like, how the atmosphere is back there concerning this song. There are some people with no complaints, say like, oh yeah, you know, whatever, it's just a song, which is how some people would react with Jay Park's last re-release. People tend to think if it doesn't concern you, then they're gonna mind their own business. So in his original release 2 months ago, the DNA part of the song didn't really mix in with the rest of what everybody else was saying. It wasn't cohesive. This one was more cohesive with the hook of the difference between you and me. It's in our DNA. I think what may have happened here with Jay really swinging far in the other way oversimplified some larger issues that encourage divisive sentiment in, like, the political climate between Korea and Japan. It's criticized that Jay Park is weaponizing patriotism by showcasing Japan's colonialism to highlight Korean pride. While the issue of Japanese colonialism is still a very touchy subject between Japan and Korea politically, Japan's most recent occupation of Korea was from 1910 to 1945, which overlaps with World War II. There are modern-day protests raising awareness for World War II-era crimes by Japan, most notably the comfort women issue, where Korean women, among other women in other countries that were colonized by Japan, such as the Philippines and China, were kidnapped, tricked, or sold by their families into sex slavery for Japanese military use. Economically, too, in 2019, a huge boycott of Japanese goods happened in Korea, with this Boycott Japan sign being touted across streets, buses, and even college campuses. Participation in the Japanese boycott skyrocketed, and this had drastic economic effects. Travel from South Korea to Japan dropped 4%, while the sale on beer in South Korea skyrocketed, while the consumption of Japanese beer products plummeted. It's safe to say that there's absolute proof of an anti-Japanese sentiment in Korea, from both an economic viewpoint and a political one. Nationalism isn't inherently negative at all, and Jay Park is proud to be Korean, and that's great. And we can all agree that Japan committed heinous crimes during World War II. But Jay's re-release in language is being criticized as encouraging toward that already divisive sentiment that exists between Korea and Japan. And that's why I chose to compare these two videos. CL shows us how you can be nationalistic and have pride for your lineage, but pull others up too. As Asians, we're all diverse, and we have a rough history. Let's not let history divide us, but let's acknowledge it and rise together. I do want to denote that all of these rappers in Jay Park's song are not spreading anti-Japanese rhetoric in their verses. It's a re-release on Korean Independence Day, denoting Japanese colonialism with the hook of "the difference between me and you is in my DNA." It rings us tone deaf of the political climate to some of the critics of this song in South Korea. Personally, I think the re-release lacks tact, sure, and with Jay's quick pivot quickly and aggressively from cultural appropriation of Black and Latino culture to Korean ultranationalism, it feels more like pandering to an audience to appease people than it does genuine. And to those that are apathetic, well, you can be personally apathetic and not care about what this video existing is saying, sure, but artistic expression, pop culture, and music, it has influence, whether you want to admit that or not. I honestly believe that Jay Park and all of these rappers have like zero bad intent to spread this ultra-nationalistic kind of view. And I would wholeheartedly believe that. But there's a such thing of ignorance without malice. I really want to say the thing about critiquing this type of music and this type of art and imagery is that we don't have to look at Jay Park and be like, oh, well, you're canceled because you just can't get it right. And I'm not even saying that Jay should strive to be more nuanced like CL is being in this video. This is art after all. Jay's allowed to say what he wants to say, and then we can critique it, and that enacted change. He and a lot of other people reshot the entire video. So, I mean, no matter what, we should think deeply about the art that we see, and how it not only affects us and speaks to our personal experience, but how it can affect other people. Jay Park did, in his comment on his original music video 2 months ago, he said that there are bigger issues, and sure there are, but we're not going to pretend like his actions don't have influence. And in the end, he asked people to just allow him to grow and learn. And I totally agree with that sentiment. I want to believe that that's genuine. I want to believe that he's trying to do better. And no one has to attack each other here. And let's have constructive conversations in the comments. Like we did in my last video, the Bo Burnham ones, like, guys, look at this. We are talking about neoliberal fascism and Marxism with love. Carl would be proud. Let's keep that going in the comments, and let me know what you think about this. The Pikachu Lambo with the lightning in the background. It's so cute. Alright, this Pikachu Lambo is adorable. First of all, let's go. Freaking goals that I will never achieve, but it's adorable. Cute little thunder in the background. But let's think about it. What's the theme here? Pikachu comes from a Japanese franchise, Pokemon. Korea and Japan's political relations are very contentious. Remember, I'm saying politics, not general population here. There has been instances of ban of Japanese language in music and on TV programs. Back in 1988, then President Kim Dae-jung lifted the cultural ban. However, like back in 2014, we had Crayon Pop's music video Oi pulled from a music program for having the Japanese word for twinkle or pika pika. So that music video was banned on one broadcaster, KBS, but SBS and MTV allowed it. It's very we have in K-pop groups, you know, Japanese girls, Thai girls, Chinese girls who perform on these shows. And, you know, they have a significant fan base in Korea. So it's very confusing that these two realities can exist within the same time, where Korea is boycotting Japanese products within their country, and then at the same time there's people who idolize their Japanese K-pop idols. So it's really important, because in that issue you see that there's a divide between the politics and the people. Korean and Japanese people are proving to us that they can get along and even look up to these people as inspirations. It's the politics and the economics that are dividing them. But for the wide population of people, there is not strong ethnic hatred here. But anyway, real quick, back to the Pika Pika Lambo. I think it's a really cheeky way for CL to use something silly and cute that represents the very country that they have the most contentious political relationship with, and makes light of the issue too. Like, yeah, there's a Japanese Pikachu, like in my video. You want to make this political? Like, I dare you. And I really love this representation of unity through something nuanced, silly, and small. And we take those. I think it's a cool way to interpret this frame of the video. And I love that part with the red hair. You can see all the people facing her copied her hairstyle, like denoting CL has influence to make people like and inspire them. I really like how you could see her interpretations that are in no way like copycats. It's truly phenomenal. You could tell like she got inspiration from a lot of different kinds of artists and used her own experience to bring that artistic impression to life. Wow. CL, as always, she did a wonderful, wonderful job. She has done wonderful, and I enjoyed every moment, and the dance was fantastic. And most of all, what I love is that these lyrics are conscious of when she released the music and that racial discrimination, and it's really nuanced. She's very aware of the influence that she has, and she used it as a performer and an artist to balance what she is proud of, which is her nationalistic pride, and used non-divisive rhetoric, and even used it as an opportunity to bring up everyone in that group that she is a part of, because she's not only Korean, but she's an Asian woman, and we freaking stan that. I love CL. And, well, I love you too. Bye! As always, leave your wonderful comments below and let me know what your thoughts about this is. And I'll see you in the next adventure.